guys, it's Sarah from This Happy Home, your one-stop shop for all things Disney. And today we are continuing with our 19 random Disney things for 2019 series. If you're new here, I ask that you kind of go back and look at the other videos. I think they're fantastic. And also, if you're new here, please subscribe, ring the bell. We'd love to have you. In this video, as we continue with the series, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever had a not so magical Disney vacation? And if so, what happened? And I'd love to know that in the comments below. This video is all about not having a magical vacation and what to do when that happens. So stick around because it will answer why we didn't have a magical vacation, what happens, who to call, and what happens when you call, and it answers the question, does Disney even care? So let's get started. This particular situation happened to us in April of 2018 when we were going on the Disney Fantasy for Star Wars Day at Sea for my youngest son's 3rd birthday. I am a big Star Wars fan, and when it fell on the week of my son's birthday, we were super excited. My son also, even though at the time he was only 3, big Star Wars fan. It's hard because it was a good vacation, okay? It wasn't the best vacation, and this is pretty much why. We have a good time no matter where we go, and that's why this Happy Home slogan is finding happiness in whatever life brings, because not everything in life is going to be fantastic. Not everything in life is going to be hunky-dory and going the way you want, but you still have to make the best of it. And that's pretty much what we did on this trip. I'm going to talk about 6 things that happened that didn't make it so magical. The first thing is just the quality of the Disney cruise in this particular trip was severely lacking. You come to know Disney as somebody or as a company, your expectations are high. You know, you go on these vacations expecting to have a great time, not only because you're used to having a good time, but because you are paying a pretty penny to have a good time. And just the quality of things was severely lacking, and it was almost like being stuck in a Twilight Zone episode where you're like, I'm on a Disney cruise, right? Like, what is going on? And I must say that this was our 2nd Disney cruise, and my husband says all the time that had this been his first Disney cruise, he would never have gone back on. So let's get to the quality issues that was going on. One was the service. From the very beginning, it seemed that the staff ratio to guest ratio was a little bit off. And it seems that the servers and the staff was overwhelmed. Oftentimes they were coming and it was like, you know, with the water and this, you know, and it's just like, and the plates, and it's just like, okay, how about we calm down? Because, you know, it's not that serious. I'm not gonna be upset if you know, wait 2 more minutes to bring me my food. It was just kind of very random the way their behavior was. The other thing was, in regards to, again, that was the quality of service. This is just the quality of their things. And I'm gonna show a picture of this also so you kind of see what I'm talking about. When we were at the Animator's Palate, it must have been like one of the first nights there. There is a table setting that goes on your table to let you know the number, and it has a paintbrush, a pencil, because it's an Animator's cup, so it has like all the utensils that you would use, and I'll show you a picture. It was broken, and I just can't understand why that would still be on a table. It's broken. There's children around, especially my kids. They put the crayons in that thing with a sharp edge broken. It just boggled my mind. And so when we sat down and we saw it, we were like, oh, that's something that's weird. That's not Disney. Why would something be broken on a table as your first impression there at the restaurant? I asked the server, again, because they're all, flustered, if they could just move it, or, we know where our table is. We're obviously not moving. If they could just move that table setting. Ignored me. They didn't, they kind of like, okay, and then kind of moved on. And again, my boys are reaching for those crayons. We took out the crayons and we moved that table setting to a table next to us that nobody showed up for. And did you know that so you have a rotating dining at Disney Cruise, and we ate at the Animator's Palate another time, and that was on the table again. It was just like, I don't even understand. So it was, again, those quality things where attention to detail was lacking, which was just not like Disney. The other thing was the food. I felt like the food was not the same as it was on the Disney Magic. They were not very flexible with bringing us certain things. We don't have a food allergy, but I felt like if we did, it might have been a problem, because they were just not like listening to what the boys had wanted. Just not really helping us out with the menu. It was more like, okay, yeah, you can eat that, and that's fine, and we'll bring that. And it wasn't like, oh, let me tell you about this, how we can mix and match it, and all these different things. And again, had this been our first Disney cruise, we would think that we would only be able to eat one thing and not be able to try other things. And so it was just one of those things where, again, it was falling short of the expectation that we had. The other thing was, which was a big thing, is the cleanliness of the room and the ship. Now, again, this was my fault. From the moment that we got on the cruise, that we were able to get into our room, which is later on in the afternoon-ish, like 3 o'clock, I knew from the moment I walked in there that there was something wrong. It didn't smell clean. It didn't smell or feel like it was freshened up. It almost was like nobody had used the cabin the week prior, or it just gave me the impression that it was kind of like dusty, not really maintained. And I should have said something in that moment. But again, we were excited. We were just throwing our stuff there to go back and explore the rest of the ship. And it just bothered me for the remainder of the cruise. I was giving our cleaner the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, tomorrow, it'll be cleaner. Or when we get back, it'll be cleaner. It never was. And I felt like I waited too long to complain about it, because I did make a complaint on the ship. And I did go to guest services and I said, look, I should have came for day 1. And right now it's like day 4 or 5. And I told her, I don't think that this has been cleaned. I don't think that it's being maintained properly. And they did handle that situation very quickly. The multiple people came to the room to kind of see what I was talking about, understand where I was coming from. And yes, they were mortified, because there was areas that were dusty. There was a milk stain that never was cleaned. And it was just one of those things where they were shocked, we were shocked. And again, I felt like it was my fault for not saying something sooner. And they reassured me that, it should have been It shouldn't have not even been an issue, you know. So that was the cleanliness issue. The other thing is that on the Disney Magic, when we went on our very first cruise, I honestly felt like if I had to, I could have eaten off the floor. The Disney Fantasy, I felt like, again, because of the guest to staff ratio, I don't think that the ship was in its best state cleanliness wise, or even in its, like, you know, in general, how people view the Disney Fantasy. And again, this was my experience. The other thing that was kind of off were the shows. And again, this goes along the lines with the same thing of my impression of a lack of staffing. Unfortunately, one of the shows was canceled because one of the performers did get hurt. And I completely understand that. But there's no understudy. You don't, like, the show was supposed to go on. And I understand that the star of the show may not be able to be there, but there has to be 2 or 3 people who can play that role. And to cancel a show completely with no activity replacing it, I mean, there was a slight uproar on the ship. People were planning to go see this show and they had nothing to do for a while, which was kind of strange. It didn't affect us because it was the late show and we ate for the late. So we actually got to see that first performance before it got canceled. But it was just one of those things where you don't have a backup plan. Again, I feel like Disney can plan for these things to happen, and people get hurt, people get sick. You know, you cancel a show. I feel like that was a little bizarre to me. And the most upsetting thing that happened on the ship, which was really bizarre. So shutters is the photographers that they have on the ship to take pictures of you throughout your cruise. Now, I felt like there were no real photographers. It was just like, there were some that I felt like were legitimate photographers because I always saw them with their camera. And there were other people who were holding a camera who I saw serving dinner, serving at cabanas for lunch and breakfast. And I thought that that was strange that they would also be manning a camera. To me, that was weird. I mean, I guess they can kind of double. But what happened is the very last day of the ship, when you pick your package and you create your album, there were, I want to say, like over 50% of the guests on the ship, their pictures were lost. And there were multiple people. I mean, it was like chaos the last night because you only have that night to pick your pictures, create your album, and people had like 5 pictures to choose from when you've been taking pictures this whole time. There were pictures that we lost from Castaway Key. You know, there were pictures of my husband and my son in the water that I saw them take. They couldn't find it. People were missing pictures from Star Wars Day. I mean, it was like people were in an uproar. And guess what? You paid for this package. They were not giving compensation. They were not helping you, you know, make you feel like you were getting something in return. So those were the bad things that happened on the cruise, which is why it led me to call a couple of weeks after we got back. The other thing that was interesting, and the other reason why I called, was because I didn't feel like I voiced my opinion while I was on the ship. We did not receive the survey at the end of the ship, at the end of the cruise, to rank the ship, to, you know, to write whatever we needed to write. We never received that. And I think that was on purpose because I had complained to customer service, well, guest services while we were on the ship. I don't think our the one that cleans our room left that for us on purpose. And so I called, and as I'm dialing the number, I'm just like, Disney doesn't care. Disney doesn't care that one family didn't have a great magical vacation. You know, why am I even gonna bother? And it wasn't to complain, it was more like a quality assurance. I felt like if they don't know that these little things were happening, then how could they make changes? How could they plan for these things to have, you know, to make a contingency plan, basically? You know, quality assurance is extremely important in any job, and especially when you're dealing with people and guests that are paying money, they want to come back. And like I said, had this been our first Disney cruise, we would not be going back ever, because it was just terrible on their end. We had a great time because we have a good time no matter where we go. You know, we make the best of it. But in all honesty, to spend all that money for all those things to be terrible would not be worth it to us again. So again, I'm sitting there with the phone and I'm just like, they are not, this is just, they're gonna be like, okay. Well, I got to speak with one woman who was immediately like, oh, let me get somebody who will help you with that. And this one gentleman who got on the phone with me, he really impressed me because he let me he let me vent out what happened and my disappointment and I told him, I said, I feel like two things. I feel like I was betrayed by Disney. I feel like the experiences that I've had and the joys that I've, you know, experienced with my family, and I tell people about going to Disney, I feel betrayed by them. And I feel betrayed by saying anything because I love Disney so much. And after everything was said and done, he took notes, he read stuff back to me. He was like, let me understand that this is what happened. And he summarized everything back to me. And he told me that it's because of my love for Disney that by telling them these things that they can make it better. And they appreciated me talking to them. He told me that he would be emailing me and that somebody would be reaching out to me from the guest correspondence services, and you know, they would be trying to get more information about what happened on the ship. I honestly thought that's where I would stay. I didn't think I would get a call back. I didn't think I would even get an email. And I just thought that they were, again, okay, you know, trying to call me in a way or handle me. Well, I was wrong. And they did email me. And another woman in charge of the guest corresponding services called me, and she was like, well, let me understand what happened. And I see here that you did complain. I see here that this was an issue, and you know, I appreciate you calling us, telling us these things. And again, I never felt like wasn't getting anybody in trouble. That was never my intent. Again, I feel like if you don't know, you can't make things better. And it wasn't to complain. It was just, again, to explain that this is what happened to us. And in all honesty, I was a part of a Facebook group for this week of the Disney cruise. And I want to say 50% of us experienced the same thing. It was a very strange cruise. And I feel like, again, it's one of those things that was out of the norm. It wasn't something that was usual, but it did happen to us. And it was just odd. There was a lot of unhappy people on that cruise. She did offer us compensation, which was nice. It doesn't expire. She gave us a certificate, and I'll put that letter and the certificate picture here. But it does, I want to say that if you didn't have a magical vacation, I encourage you to reach out to Disney. Not for compensation, not for to get something out of it, because that wasn't my intent. My intent was really, I love Disney and I want to see this for my children in the future. I want them to be better. I don't want them to think that, oh, we're on top and we got to slack, because no, they raise their prices, their cruises are expensive, and if I'm gonna pay the money, I want it to be here and I want it to exceed my expectation. And that was the purpose of calling. This wasn't up to the general population expectation. And it was important for me to kind of express that. And I will encourage you guys to express that. If you don't have a good time, don't be nasty, because you'll never get anything if you're nasty. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So you have to be nice. It's not that person's fault that you're talking to on the phone. So there's no reason to be nasty. Polite, you tell them what happened, you express your grievance. You know, it grieved me. I was like distraught after this trip. I was just like, how could Disney do this to me? So express that to them. Be genuine, be real. The other thing is that know that Disney does care. They want to know these things. They want to be able to be better. So I hope this video was helpful. If you've ever had a terrible vacation, please let me know. I would love to hear about it. And again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Visit me on the blog. I'm gonna post the 2 links that about this. It's the 5 hits and misses of the Disney Fantasy and what happens when you complain to the Disney Cruise Line. And you can find that in the description below. From this happy home to yours, find happiness in whatever life brings. And I'll see you guys on the next time. Bye.